Hello friends, welcome back to my home and welcome to another video that is centered around organizing. So I am tackling our kitchen, and if you all are new here, we moved into this house not that long ago, and I've been slowly taking my time to figure out how I want to organize each area of the house. And I need to kind of give you a background on the way that I cook before I totally go into how I'm organizing. So I bulk buy most of my ingredients. If you all follow me on my main channel, this is my home channel where I do a lot of homemaking type things, but on my main channel I share a lot of recipes. I have shared with you our cellar and how we store our long-term food storage and things like that. So most of the ingredients and food stored in my kitchen is really just an extension of that cellar, and really just bits and pieces from the cellar that I want at my fingertips in the kitchen. So having smaller jars and smaller containers to hold some of my ingredients is really all I need, and I can just take out of my bulk storage, if that makes sense. So I am working on these two large drawers. Whenever I first saw these large drawers, whenever we moved in, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do with them. They are so huge. It really doesn't do justice seeing it on camera, but they are very, very large drawers. And it struck me the one day to take gallon jars and see if they would fit in here, and they really do. So it works perfectly to store a lot of my baking ingredients. I even have a few empty ones, so if I find another ingredient that I want to add in there, I totally can. So what I did is took my embossing labeler, and I feel like I've talked about this in so many organizing videos. I do have a Cricut and I do love it, but this thing is so fast, so easy. I love that it's budget friendly. I think it's under $10 last time I checked. It kind of fluctuates around $10, and it's just easy for anyone to be able to use. So I just went ahead and made labels for the tops of these jars, since that's where I would be mostly looking whenever I open up the drawer instead of the side of the jars. If you all remember, in my previous house, I had a lot of jars in my pantry there, and I labeled the sides of the jars. But with this setup, I really don't need to label the side of the jars, and it's more important that the lid is labeled. So speaking of lids, I have had these plastic white lids for years. If you've been around for a while, you know that. And I noticed not that long ago that they really didn't seem to screw on super tight. I don't know how to explain it, but I could tell that the seal was not the greatest. And then I found these metal lids that actually has a white rubber seal on the inside of the lid, and I got some and I tried them out, and wow, whenever you screw them onto a jar, you can definitely tell that it is making a very tight seal onto the jar. There are some for regular mouth mason jars or ball jars, and then some for wide mouth. These would be wide mouth. I will leave them linked below, but they are really great. I don't know that I would suggest them for something that had a lot of liquid in it. I'll probably save the plastic jar lids for things in my refrigerator, because I think that eventually these metal lids would probably fight with rust a little bit. But for these dry goods, it's going to work great and give me that nice tight seal that's going to prevent the contents from going stale. So I'm so glad I found these, and I'm glad I made the change up. I think it's gonna help my dry goods last longer. Another question I get is, do I add dates to my stuff as far as like an expiration date? And to be honest, we go through our ingredients pretty quickly. I know about the time that I purchased them. I'm not worried about it at all. Most dry good ingredients, you have at least a year, if not 2 years, on that expiration date. And so I know that we'll use that up. If it's something I am concerned about, I do put a date on it. So this is a tall pantry cabinet on the other side of my refrigerator. The bottom of it actually has some of my dishes in it, and I really like that storage down there. It makes it easy for my daughter to help put away the dishes. But the rest of it, I really wanted to focus on a lot of our other cooking ingredients. So things like vinegars and oils, and I buy my honey by a 5-gallon bucket. I also do the same thing with my maple syrup. And so I just needed some containers that I could store a lot of this stuff that I buy in really large quantities, and I don't have room to store a 5-gallon bucket of honey or maple syrup in my kitchen. So just kind of giving containers to those things. I think a lot of people tend to put things in different containers simply for the aesthetic and the way things look, but a lot of that comes from the idea that people used to buy most of their groceries in a bulk form and take it home and then put it into canisters. So I think that it's interesting that that is kind of making a comeback in our culture now, and people are starting to buy bulk again. And I think that it's now making a reason to have other containers or put things in containers and actually label them. So one other thing that I wanted to mention is coconut oil. So I'm putting that into a jar. Coconut oil actually lasts longer in the refrigerator. I like mine in my pantry because I know that it's going to be nice and soft. It's easy to scoop out. So because I buy a big container of coconut oil, I like to put a small amount into a jar for in my pantry, and then I can keep that big container in my extra refrigerator in my basement. Or I can even just keep it in my basement because my basement is a lot cooler than my kitchen. So that is another thing that will last longer if I store most of it in a cooler environment than in my pantry. So I have a complete weakness for swing top, latch top jars. I think they are adorable. I love them. If I see one at a thrift store, I will snag it. And so I've been kind of collecting some from here and there, and I decided that I wanted to use it for ingredients that might be some that I kind of cycle out. So they may not be something that stay in there forever. I can always swap out the label, but things like nuts and certain seasonings and things like that. I am going to be making some homemade ranch seasoning and taco seasoning. I've made the taco seasoning before on my main channel here in the next little bit, so keep an eye out for that on my main channel if you are interested in making your own ranch or taco seasoning. And I made the jars for them there, but they're not going to be filled in this video because I haven't made the seasoning yet. I also put a few herbs that I've been using to make different teas that just didn't fit on my countertop where I have my other loose leaf teas in here, and also chai spice, and I'm also going to be whipping up some pumpkin spice as well for in this other little jar that you'll see here next to the chai spice. I love both of those in coffee and tea and other things, especially during the fall and winter season. They're just nice warm seasonings. So speaking of, we love seasoning blends. We have a meat smoker, and so we smoke a lot of our meats and things, and so having all of those at our fingertips is really convenient. As you can see here in the pantry, I decided to go ahead and just make that whole turntable kind of for seasoning blends. And next I'm pulling out these bamboo containers, and I do not know if Walmart still has them. If they do, I will link them below, but these were at Walmart I think last year, and they have made their way around my house. I love them. I have a few more than just these three, and they're just so convenient. They're nice little wooden boxes or bamboo. I'm not sure which one they're made out of. And they have these handles that are easy to grab, especially if it's up on a shelf. And so I wanted to be able to put a few things up higher in my one cabinet. So I'm putting all of these things into these boxes, and then I'm using some chalkboard labels. If you all haven't noticed, the last few videos or last little while, I've been loving chalkboard labels. You can easily write things on them. You just take a damp cloth and wipe them off if you change the contents of the container. I love the flexibility, and I just get like a fine tip chalk marker, and that just makes it easy to be able to write out the little details of whatever the contents are of your container. I thought I would go ahead and chat with you about what is in these before I put them up in the cupboard above the pantry, the longer one, so that they are all going up in this small cupboard. So this is an empty box. I love having wiggle room when it comes to organizing. I feel like you are truly succeeding in your organizing if you have a little room for something that comes along the way, and you're also doing really well with your decluttering if you have a little extra. So that's just gonna go up in the top. It sits perfectly in that cupboard with this one. So this box here holds a lot of baking stuff. I actually decluttered this really well today. There was stale mini marshmallows, there was some sprinkles that we had gotten for another event, and we didn't need them anymore. And I'm also being really careful of checking things for red dye for my one daughter, and I noticed that those sprinkles had red dye in them. This is a natural food coloring set that I recently picked up for when we want to do stuff like that. These are some sugar sprinkles back here, flavorings, muffin tin liners, and some baking chocolate. And then I just wrote everything on this little chalkboard label. I love those things. And I put one on this as well. That way, because it's a little bit higher, my daughter empties the dishwasher, and so she'll know where to kind of put stuff whenever it's time to put it away. It helps keep everything in place. I find when I put labels on things, I see how our family, since we have more readers in our house now than we used to, tends to put things where they need to go because they can see it right on the label. So we make a lot of our own homemade sauces and dressings and things, so I like to have squeeze bottles on hand. This is one of the few plastic items in my kitchen. I try to minimize plastic as much as possible. These here are something actually I just recently picked up, and in my next video on my main channel, I'm actually going to use these to make little ginger squares and garlic squares for in the freezer. So when I'm cooking, I can just grab a little square out and not have to get out fresh ginger or fresh garlic. I will try to remember to leave these linked below if you're interested in using them for the same purpose. I have skewers in here, immersion blender. We like to make our own mayo, and that is a must. And then just a small citrus squeezer and my flour sifter. These aren't things I use every single day, so it's fine to put them kind of up and out of the way. I organized this stuff off camera, but I wanted to go ahead and show it to you. And I thought I would just show you up here on the counter since this cabinet is a little bit dark. So down in this cabinet is where I keep my cookware. I'm super minimal with my cookware. We have 2 cast irons, they're in the oven. And then I've got my Dutch oven, a saucepan, and then I have a big kettle, I guess is what you would call it. Basically a big pot, and a strainer, and then a mesh strainer in there, and I hang my hot pads here. Up here is where I keep a bunch of loose leaf tea, and then my electric kettle to make tea and stuff. So since that's all up here, I thought this would be a nice place to have kind of drink related things. So I have some tea bags in here, some more loose leaf tea in this. This is a little strainer. Here is regular coffee and decaf coffee. We get it from a local roaster. And then I've got my stevias here, and then my little hand frother thing. I couldn't think of what it was called there for a second. Over here, I've got some electrolyte powder, and then this is another supplement. But I just wanted to show you all, organization doesn't have to be crazy complicated. It can be so simple. I think I thrifted this basket or yard saled this basket for like $1 or 50 cents or something like that. And this here was a Walmart find, and I've used it in many places in my home. So I'm just recycling it to use it in this spot. And it's just basically having containers to really corral the things that go with drinks. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put those in here, and that's what's in this. I love cabinets like this where you don't have a bunch of shelving and you're able to put big items like pots and pans or things that are tall. All right, so to finish out this side of the kitchen, so these two drawers here is where we put all of those ingredients in the jars, a lot of baking things and stuff like that. But this cabinet here is sort of a catch-all. It's something that fluctuates a lot for me. Sometimes I put baskets in here. Sometimes it's just kind of the way it is right now. I put a lot of bagged items, things like if I get a store-bought granola or bread. Down here we have popcorn. It's kind of an area we do keep snacks. In the back of this cabinet, I'll keep things like pasta that's not in my cellar. Just kind of for dry goods, but stuff that I don't really want to make a designated canister for, if that makes sense. So everybody needs a little catch-all area, I think, in their kitchen. It's not all going to look like Pinterest and picture perfect all the time, and that is this cabinet for us. I am just so happy with this side of the kitchen and how it's all turned out. I'll be working on this side of the kitchen a bit more in my next video or so. And I'm so excited with everything I got accomplished. It was a lot to make all of those labels, but I really like that little label maker. It's so budget friendly with being around $10, and even the refills don't cost that much. And I just love the way it looks. It's really cute and easy to use. You don't have to have a lot of special things to be able to make quick little labels like that. And if you guys haven't seen me organize this refrigerator, I do have a video on that. I can leave that linked below, but I do want to kind of reorganize it. We have been doing a lot more of whole food eating and buying things in bulk, so I think I'm organizing it a bit different than what I had at one point. I'm so happy with how this little pantry turned out, and I'm sorry it's so dark in this corner. It's been kind of a cloudy day today, so I've been fighting with a lot of lighting and whatnot, but I just think it's going to be so convenient to be able to take my big jugs of vinegar and oils and just refill these bottles and be able to keep my larger jugs and stuff downstairs. And obviously all of our kinders or kinders spices that we love, however you like to say it. And then up there is all of my odds and end ingredients. And the nice thing about these labels is they don't stick too bad to where I couldn't take them off and replace it with something else if I want to change out what I have in those canisters. And then up here is where those other bins went. I'm so glad that they are labeled now, and I can just put things away where they're supposed to go over there. You saw everything down in these cabinets, and yeah, I am just so thrilled with how all of this looks. So if you all are new here, don't forget to subscribe. I just do a lot of simple, easy homemaking here on my channel. And don't forget to give this video a like and leave a comment below. I love chatting with you all about what projects you are working on in your homemaking, and I'll see you all in the next video.